Kicking your cats all over the place, saying we will rock you. I have a question for you. Do you know someone, or maybe it's yourself, who, you have the special ability just to sing wrong lyrics and sing them really loud? Mishearing lyrics can be really easy, especially if you don't think about it, right? Now, if you don't believe me, check out this from Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon in their segment, Misheard Lyrics.
Now I thought I'd share some of my favorite Misheard Lyrics tweets from you guys. Here we go. First one is from @Iodes. He says, I want to rock and roll all night and part of every day. Part of, very specific.
Part.
Between 11 and 3.
I will rock.
I will rock and roll.
All night, look out.
Just a little bit.
Because the lid is off the rock.
Yeah,
but during the day.
This one's from @Kimberly's21. She says, when I was little, I thought the song was Bob, 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 or Ann. My parents' names are Bob and Ann. It's like, Mom and Dad, you're famous. You're in a song. I heard If You Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones as, in Yugoslavia, you'll never stop. In Yugoslavia, you'll never stop. Never stop. You'll never stop. Yugoslavia, you'll never stop. No, you'll never eat. When I was young, I thought The Lion King started with Pennsylvania. It should, actually.
Why not?
I don't know, yeah. The Groundhog King.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, 6 more weeks of winter.
Pakatani fell home.
We've been spending most our life with the gangster's pair of dice. Living with the gangster's pair of dice.
Well, gangsters are known for
Like,
playing dice.
those big
the
fuzzy
fuzzy
dice.
ones.
You win at like carnivals, yeah. I always thought the Gloria Estefan song was Elizabeth's gonna get you, Elizabeth's gonna get you, Elizabeth's gonna get you. Jose, 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 or one.
And Elizabeth.
I can't tell you how many songs my wife has had to correct the lyrics for me because I think I hear one thing and I say it, but I'm not even close to the actual thing. Now, this doesn't just happen with song lyrics. We can also experience this in conversations with other people. It's a phenomenon called Mondegreen. Now, the word Mondegreen was coined by 1954 American author Sylvia Wright. She understood an old English poem one way as a tragic love story, with the ending line being, they have slain the Earl O'Mara and Lady Mondegreen. But it was actually about a person who died alone, with the actual ending line being, they have slain Earl O'Mara and laid him on the green. Hence the phrasing, Mondegreen. I'd imagine that all of us can recall many Mondegreen moments in our own lives. And when it's song lyrics, it's really all fun and games and, we can laugh about it. But what about the times when what we've misheard are the words of the people around us? Author David Augsburger writes, being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. Listening to people, really listening and hearing and understanding what they're saying is a critical expression of love. So, how do we make sure we aren't mishearing? Last week, in our last episode, we started a new series called How to Bless Your Neighbor, which is all about our mission here at Real Life Church of helping people find and follow Jesus. As our lead pastor said, it's not just the mission of the church, it's your mission, it's my mission. Honestly, it's all of our mission. And if you're a follower of Jesus, he has called you to help people find and follow Jesus. But what so often happens, and I am definitely guilty of this from time to time, is that we often sit on the sidelines waiting for someone else to carry out the mission, and we're just kind of cheering them on. Instead of helping people find and follow Jesus, we're hoping people find and follow Jesus. So during this series, we are equipping and challenging one another to be people who actually help. And what we found is that the best way to help, the best way to live out this mission is to be a blessing to the people God puts in our lives. Now, as a reminder, B.L.E.S.S is actually an acronym that stands for 5 daily practices that are essential to living out our mission. And this series is all about identifying the people and places we've been called to bless. So last week, we challenged you to begin with prayer. And we introduced the B.L.E.S.S cards that you can find on the RLC app. Just scan the QR code that's on the screen to download it. And you can use the card to write in the name of the person or the place that God is calling you to bless. And you can use that card as a reminder to pray for them. Today, we're going to hone in on the second practice of B.L.E.S.S, which means listen. Now, I'm sure you know this, but we live in a world where hardly anybody really listens. Most people only care about what they have to say than what others are saying. There's a famous saying that goes, the opposite of listening is not speaking, it's waiting to speak. Isn't that true? That even when we're not talking, a lot of times we're not thinking about what the other person is saying. We're only thinking about what we're gonna say. And I am chief sinner number 1 when it comes to this. And many conversations with other people, I'm plotting out what I'm going to say in response instead of actually listening to what's being said. And I'm sure you've been on the other side of this as well. Like you were telling someone a story or explaining something, and you could tell that even though they were listening, they were not really listening. Here's the thing. If we really want to be the kind of person who helps people find and follow Jesus, we have to get better at listening. I mean, really listening to people. And the best reason to become a person who consistently listens is because we follow someone who made it a priority to be a great listener. Jesus modeled this for us in every aspect of his life. He wasn't just performing great miracles or teaching profound truths, but because of his love for everyone he came into contact with, he took the time again and again to show love in the most practical and simple way. He listened. One of the writers of the New Testament, a guy by the name of Luke, records a moment where Jesus hears the sound of a blind beggar calling out from the side of the road. Luke 18:40. When Jesus heard him, he stopped and ordered that man be brought to him. As the man came near, Jesus asked him, "What do you want me to do for you?" "Lord," he said, "I want to see." He stops, crouches down low, and asks a question, and actually listens to the man, and then he blesses the man. There's another instance in the writings of John where Jesus is walking by a small pool of water outside of a city, and he notices a man lying there. And so John writes in John 5:6, when Jesus saw him, he knew he had been ill for a long time. He asked him, "Would you like to get well?" You see, he stops and asks a question to the man, and he then listens so he knows how to bless him. Are you starting to see the pattern here? One of the writers of the first 4 books of the New Testament, Mark, writes about a moment when Jesus sends out the 12 first followers to continue his mission in other cities. They go out and they bless hundreds of people. And when they return, Mark writes that the apostles returned to Jesus from their ministry tour and told him all they had done and taught. You see, what tends to happen when we read the accounts of Jesus, we're naturally drawn to the over-the-top, amazing things Jesus did. We remember the big moments, the unforgettable moments, but it's important that we don't overlook the more ordinary moments, the moments when Jesus pulls up a chair to another person and honestly just listens. You see, living out the mission of Jesus isn't all about the wow moments. In fact, it's more so about just the regular, more meaningful moments. And in these regular moments, that's when we can really come within arm's reach of one another and actually listen to what's going on in their hearts. I came across a story that really illustrates the importance of getting close enough to listen to the people around us in order to bless them. Check this out. In the early 90s, in the neonatal intensive care unit, a nurse who had been watching this newborn for several hours had discovered that the baby had turned blue. So the nurse calls the medical team and they all begin to propose theories as to why. They come to the conclusion that it's the baby's lungs that are causing this issue. The nurse, on the other hand, believed it was the baby's heart. She believed that there was an air pocket around the baby's heart that was preventing it from working. Now, after insisting over and over that they listen to the heart, the medical team confirms the nurse's theories and they perform the procedure that would end up saving the baby's life. Later, the team understood that why the monitor had misled them. It was actually measuring the electrical activity commanding the heartbeat, and that had not stopped. The heart was simply unable to respond to it because of the air pressure. The lesson we can take from this is that we all get caught up in the busyness of life, and sometimes we can fail to listen to the hearts of the people around us. Now, when was the last time you talked to a neighbor or checked in on your neighbor? How about the last time you checked in on a coworker? Maybe even a stranger who's been having a bad day. Sometimes the only way to know how we can bless the people around us is if we're like Jesus and the nurse. We slow down, quiet all the activity and noise, and get within an earshot to truly listen. Now, we can't bless the world without listening to the people, but we also need to be listening to the places. Here's what I mean. If we want to listen to our community or our city, here's what I would encourage you to do. You and maybe your community group, just do a very simple practice. Get on your local community's Facebook page or community page and read the sources. And as you do, note every need that you come across. And once you make a note of every need, simply allow that to drive your conversation within your group. And of these needs, determine which one we can actually meet. Which one we're particularly passionate about. By reading about our community, we discover maybe an organization that needs volunteers. We may learn about a local event that we can actually plug into. Or we might learn about a person or a group of people that really need our help. If we simply listen to our community, I believe it will tell us exactly what we need. During the summer of 2004, I went on a mission trip to Mexico City to work with inner city students. And one of our goals was to build an American church youth group room for them. Now, I'm not sure if you know what I'm talking about, but we were going to put in like these big TVs and these cool pinball machines and cool posters of Christian bands, and we're going to put colored lights. I mean, we were going to do it up big, right? But when we got there and explained what we were going to do, the workers said more than anything, they needed homework help. Because if the students couldn't get their grades up, they couldn't attend church. They wouldn't be allowed to attend church. Now, we would have not have known that unless we actually listened. We spent the entire summer tutoring students instead of building a cool room. And it went much further in helping those students come to know Jesus than some cool room. Are we giving attention to the places God has placed us? Are we really listening? The Apostle Paul knew how to listen to places as well. Listen to what he says in Acts 17. Paul then stood up in the meeting of Areopagus and said, "People of Athens, I see that in every way you are very religious. For as I walk around and look carefully at the objects of worship, I even found an altar with this inscription, 'To an unknown God.' So you are ignorant of the very thing you worship. And this is what I'm going to proclaim to you." Now, before Paul proclaims, he observes. He walks around and looks carefully at the culture that he was getting ready to proclaim to. And then he says this, "The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and of the earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands. And he is not served by human hands, as if he needs anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else." You see, Paul understood the importance of learning to pay attention to the places he was in, leaning into what God might have him do there. I love how author Dallas Willard puts it this way: the first act of love is always giving attention. The places we live and work are consistently speaking. The question is, will we hear them? And if we listen, whether it's the neighborhood association, the school board, the chamber of commerce, the city council, man, can we just show up to a meeting and just listen to what God would have you hear? Now, To bless the world, we have to start with the B, begin with prayer. And the next is L. We listen to the people and places where we live and we work. And think about the people and places that you wrote down on the card, the people and places that you have been called to bless. What if, as we begin with prayer, part of that prayer each morning is simply this: Jesus, help me listen today. And then we listen every day. Maybe we'll hear a practical need that we can easily meet. Maybe we'll hear an emotional need that our presence and our friendships will help soothe. Maybe we'll hear a spiritual need and have the opportunity to point someone to Jesus. Think about that. Maybe just by listening, God will open up the door for us to, say invite someone to watch this episode with you or to be able to share it with someone. This is how we live out the mission of Jesus. This is how we move merely beyond just hoping people find and follow Jesus to helping people find and follow Jesus. You see, Jesus heard one man's voice in a huge crowd of people. And every day, each of us come into contact with people who nobody listens to. May we be the kind of people who have the heart of Jesus, through whom God will change lives and change the world. People who always are praying, Jesus, help me listen today. Hey man, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. How are you?